Welcome. My name is Geraldine Hardy, and I'm your host for today. Last week, we spoke about vulnerability, and I shared with you quite an intense moment when I went through the examination for the tumor I had in my left breast. So now, today, I'd like to speak to you about truthfulness and honesty and why it is so important for our own self-care practice and well-being. When you are vulnerable and you are able to reach to this point that you can connect with your own essence, your intuition, that does not come from anxiety or from any fear-based lower vibrational emotions, but it comes from really this honesty to yourself, this truthfulness. And you know something is right for you or not right for you. Listen to it. Truthfulness is, within the philosophy of yoga, a big deal. It's called Satya. And Satya is not only to be, honest to other people. It is mainly are you betraying yourself, or are you really being honest to yourself and act upon it? Even if you are aware of something, do you still go against it and you do not act upon it? And that's normally where the dilemma starts in our lives. And that's where disease can come up. And that's also where life cycles can repeat their patterns. And I give you an example. So I wrote this book, Moments That Matter. I wrote this book to just encourage every one of us to have a look at these moments that have redefined the way how we see things, how we see our friends, our loved ones, how we see life, how we perceive, or maybe even to come to realize that we have been lying to oneself. Satya, truthfulness. So actually, we had to edit some parts of my book now. So it's back on Amazon now. This is the paperback. And I'm just going to read a passage on page 79. Heavy drinking, loss of self-awareness, chaos mistaken for freedom. It wasn't my language. It didn't feel liberating. It felt empty. That version of student culture never quite fit, and I knew it. Movement once again offered direction. From hip-hop clubs to dance spaces, instinct guided the body back toward rhythm. Dance returned, not as performance, but as something embodied and grounding, a way back into myself, a reminder of what felt true. Quietly, another substitution had taken place. Cocaine was gone. Alcohol had become more present. Drinking increased not recklessly, but consistently, socially, regularly. The energy stayed high until it didn't. The body began to signal again. A flare of Epstein-Barr returned, accompanied by a severe bladder infection, so painful it left an imprint impossible to forget. At first, invincibility still felt convincing. Burnout crept closer without drama. The workload was relentless, full-time studies, full-time employment, extra shifts, constant responsibility. Financing life independently demanded stamina. At times, the idea of completing a first degree felt unrealistic. There were moments of quiet comparison, wondering why some paths seemed lighter than others. And yet, perspective followed. So I'm talking here about one chapter of my life when I went back to my studies and I was already an older student and I had 3 jobs. I worked at American Express full-time for the German department and the English-speaking department, became team leader and walked up the career ladder while I was studying full-time business management, skipped 2 years of university because of my work experience. But I did not have any financial support. I was able to get a grant. I was able to get some money, a scholarship. But I had to finance my rent and my living. So I worked at a sushi bar 72 hours a week while I was working at American Express. I don't know how I did that. But I replaced cocaine because I used to take a lot of cocaine when I was living in southwestern France. And I moved to the UK then with alcohol. And I did not stay truthful to myself. I knew this was a wrong thing to do. I mean, I just overcame one addiction. Now I'm replacing with the next one. What's the point of doing that? So I escaped. And because of not being truthful to myself and thought I'm invincible, I can push through like we all do. Like if you work now on board of a yacht, the season is going to start. It slowly has started now with the Monaco Grand Prix. The charter season is going to start. You're going to be on that vessel for the entire summer. And we think we're invincible. Oh yeah, you know what? I'm going to train. I'm going to go out until 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to start working at 8 a.m. again. And I've done exactly these things. And we are not invincible. And I had to kind of become very truthful and honest to myself, because when I almost hit the burnout, where Epstein-Barr virus, the autoimmune disorder that I had, kicked in, and I laid in bed with huge excruciating pain and fever because of a bladder infection, which I cannot forget that pain, actually. When you realize that, you're like, what were you thinking? I mean, come on, you're smarter than that, you know? How can you lie to yourself and ignore your body? How can you ignore your inner voice? Why can you not just show that there is a certain vulnerability to yourself as a human being? Your physical vessel is not going to continue working no matter what you do, no matter how you keep your levels up high. You go out, you dance, and you have fun. But in a certain stage, everything that comes up needs to come down. And that's where it hits Satya, truthfulness to yourself. And yeah, we don't need to go beyond our limits. And there's no need to do so. But we do this sometimes because we maybe want to prove to other people that we can do it. We maybe want to please other people, overgive. And this is all a core fear. Again, the origins of that fear is in trauma, the fear of not being good enough. And thinking the more we do, the more we pretend everything is fine, everything will be fine. But you cannot continue lying to yourself. It's not going to work. So self-care is definitely the most important part of that. It's not just only the discipline to show up for oneself, but it's also the discipline and the honesty to be so truthful to oneself that you have to admit, you know what, I'm running myself down. And no, we always think there are excuses outside of ourselves, like, oh yeah, you know what, but I have to do this because I have to do this. No. If we do not educate and let people know how we should be treated, how are they supposed to know how to treat us? And this is not entitlement. This is not selfishness. This is like the utter fact. If you do not function anymore with your vessel, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, then everything around you, you will not be of any help. And that is the fact. That's the ugly truth about this whole thing. So looking back, you know, these are the moments that we all have. And we know in these moments also when we lie to oneself, but we maybe don't want to admit it at that time and space. So next time, especially this week, if you find yourself going out even though you don't feel like you want to go out, or doing taking over a shift of someone, but you already find yourself in the limit of your strength. Or this can be also in the office, you taking on board an extra task of a friend or a colleague of yourself, and you're not able to set your boundaries and say no. Ask yourself, are you being truthful to yourself? And at that moment, loving and caring to yourself. Namaha, namaste.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.